Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids.com. My name is Amit and this is the king of all SUVs that exist on this planet. This is the Range Rover long wheelbase, and in my journalistic career I have not come across a vehicle which is as overwhelming for the purpose that it is made for. It's supremely comfortable and it does what it's meant to do better than any other vehicle in its class. Just look at this thing. It looks so regal, it looks so royal. It really looks like nothing else on the road, and the size of it is something that is totally unparalleled. You will not find a car of this stature anywhere else. Those 21-inch wheels look beautiful and they are shot by 275 section Goodyear tires, but I have a little bit of a complaint there. These tires are meant essentially for the road, and taking them off the road is not suggestible because they are not very sturdy. The sidewalls are not very strong and they are prone to cuts. And in fact, this has been a problem with the Jaguar cars as well that we have driven. And for this class of cars, if you want to go off the road, you'd better make sure that you have stronger tires on them. Another interesting feature, and something that I told you during my Range Rover Sport review also, is these matrix LED lights. And this one comes here with the matrix LED system, but you also get pixel LED system, which is a little better in terms of the number of LED lights that you have here. But you also have the pixel laser system, wherein you have a laser light, and all these are options which you can go for, or you can avail them on the higher spec variants. On this specific version, you have this beautiful LED DRL and these 4 LED elements which light up in a beautiful fashion. First this light lights up and then the rest of the lights light up, and looks very, very beautiful. The grille also has been done very beautifully and it looks very nice in this beautiful honeycomb mesh pattern with these lines that separate them, and the Land Rover logo sitting here. An interesting thing that you want to see here is this camera, which obviously plays a very important role in giving you a very good view of the car all around. And when you look at the car from the front, it really looks beautiful. It really looks very nice and imposing, and there is a sense of class about this vehicle which simply is not there on any other vehicle that you would come across at this point in time on the Indian roads. It really looks very, very special. To mention that this car comes with auto headlamps, auto wipers would not make much sense, because for this class of cars, all of that is regulation now. Coming towards the side, what makes this car's appearance special is this satin silver element on the door and this L lettering here, which means that this is a long wheelbase version and not the normal Land Rover, which means that you have tons of space on the back seat, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But before we do that, let me also show you a trick that this car has, and that's soft door closing. So even if you don't close the doors properly, the car is going to suck them in and you don't have to bother about having left the doors ajar. Moving towards the rear, you realize that these tail lamps are also very beautifully done. They are some of the nicest tail lamps that we have seen. And another interesting thing that you'll see is this camera here, which comes with its own washer. So when you're using the rear wiper and wash, this washer washes the camera so that if there is any muck or dirt on the camera, it gets washed away and you always have a crystal clear view of what's behind. Another great feature that this car has is that not just the tailgate powered, it also comes with this picnic table where you can put whatever you have, your drinks, your sandwich, your water bottle, and park it next to a lake and have your meal, enjoy the sunset, and you have a place to put your snacks or whatever you want while you have a nice time. So for outdoorsy people, this makes for a great feature. This boot by itself is 550 liters, which is more than sufficient for a longish holiday with the entire family. And another great thing here is the fact that this car comes with a full-sized spare, which is not something that you get to see very often with this class of cars. So that's a great respite, because once you get stuck, once you have a puncture, this is a very important part of the whole equipment, and unfortunately a lot of premium cars skimp on that. That's not the case here, and we congratulate Land Rover for that. A few other small things that you'd see here is a proper 2-pin socket which can charge not just your phone, but if you want, you can power your laptop or charge your camera equipment if you so wish. And then there is also a 12-volt power socket here. So these are great things, and generally you don't find such things on most of the other regulation cars. Apart from that, you tumble the second row of seats using these buttons here and bring them up again using these buttons here. So the seats there are 60-40 split, and you can use these buttons to tumble them down and bring them back again. Also, you can lower the boot itself down by using this button, so that loading and unloading is much easier. Since this car comes with air suspension, it makes sure that it makes full use of that, not just in keeping you insulated from the rough roads, but also in making sure that the access to the car is easier. So we'll lift this back up again and talk about another feature which is very unique to the Land Rover long wheelbase and is very useful also. So as you can see, the height of the seats, this being a very big and tall car, is rather high, and it would be slightly difficult for shorter people to get in. This car comes with a feature wherein the ride height locks to the lowest, and when the car is stationary, when the car is stopped, the car lowers down so that the access is much easier, and the controls to that are there in the car. I'll show you the button for that. So these are some of the intelligent features that this car has which make it stand apart, and it's all very ingenious. It's all very, very clever. It's been very well thought out. There are a few things that we'll complain about also, but we'll keep that for the last. For now, we are going to enjoy all the beautiful things that this car has. Before we enter, we'd also do well to show you a couple of cameras which give you a good view of the car from all the angles, and this camera here plays a vital role in making sure that you get the 360-degree view, and this thing that you see here projects the Range Rover emblem onto the floor. The mirrors here are auto dimming, that's a given. And now it's time for us to enter the car. Obviously, you don't have to take the key out of your pocket. It has got a sensor, so the moment you get close to the car, it realizes that the key is somewhere close by and you can enter without having to insert the key. Before we talk about the seats, let's talk about this massive door panel here, which looks rather huge, but there is no proper slot for a 1 liter bottle. You really have to shove it in, and that's not a very nice thing. I really believe that this car should have had a proper slot for a water bottle, because this is a normal 1 liter Bisleri bottle, but if you have something fatter like say a Bailey, that bottle is not going to fit here. Also, if it's a glass bottle, that's not going to fit. So there's not a proper space for a 1 liter bottle. The other thing is that the controls here, as you can see, to adjust the seat to your comfort are very liberal. It's a 20-way adjustable seat with a 3-way memory. So it's one of the most configurable, the most comfortable seats out there, and it's very intuitive also. Another great feature that you have here, if you look closely, you'd find that there are touch controls here and no proper buttons. So in the night, they look great, they're illuminated, but in direct sunlight, as you can see, these touch controls are not very clearly visible. So that's a bit of an issue. Sometimes you don't even realize that those buttons are there. However, there is a button to reduce the ride height of the car, as I mentioned before, to make access more easy for the people who are getting in. You have these window buttons, which obviously are express. You can take the windows down and bring them back up again with one touch. It's a Land Rover, so that's a given. The sound system here needs a special mention for this specific version. The Vogue SE, the sound system that we have here is an 825 watt 18 speaker Meridian sound system, and it sounds fantastic. So that's something which is very, very well done by Land Rover. And this massive mesh here for the speaker would tell you the kind of power that these speakers possess. The infotainment system here is really, really very, very well done. Which brings us to the cabin itself, and as you get inside, you're greeted by these very comfortable seats. They are perforated, which means they are heated as well as they have ventilators. So during hot days like today, it's a great respite, and your behind and your back gets cooled through the ventilators, and it's very important for countries like India. I have already configured this seat to my driving position, and I've already talked about the space there, which brings us to the space in the middle of the car. Now, as I mentioned, one of the controls for the ride height for easier access is here. You have another button for the control here, and you can also select whether you want the ride height lock to be working or not using the menus from the instrument console. In terms of space, this central panel essentially has some space here where you can probably put a slim article like a cell phone. You have two USB sockets here. You have a micro SIM here, and you have an HDMI port along with a 12 volt power socket, another 12 volt power socket here. The party trick here is this chilled compartment which can keep your drinks really cool, and this is important for our weather. So if you have a can of cola, you can put it here, and you don't have to be in a rush to finish it because it's going to remain cool for a very long time. So that's another great feature this car has. You have these two huge cup holders which are rather well built and can be concealed by this sliding cover. However, we are not quite fond of the veneer that has been used here, and it looks rather odd to have chosen this kind of a wood trim on such an expensive car. This definitely could have been better, although it's well finished, but the design, the way it looks, is not all that appealing. The dashboard has been done completely in leather. This is leather here, you have leather here, and the color also has been appointed very well. All of this is very rich, although some parts like the plastics here could probably have been metal and could have been nicer, more premium to touch, because I really believe that it's a very expensive car, and all the touch points should have been made of premium material. You have these touch sensitive lights, and along with that you have the controls for this huge massive panoramic sunroofs, one of the largest that we have seen anywhere. And for the size of this car, that panoramic sunroof really opens up the skies for you beautifully. So if you want to be counting stars in the night, this is the perfect place to be in. And obviously the glass can also be slided back. An interesting feature that I wanted to show you is this SOS button here. So in a case of emergency, there are two modes in which this SOS system works. In manual mode, if you see an emergency where you can actually make a call, you just need to press this button for 2 seconds and you will be connected to the emergency services. And in case there is an event where the airbags are deployed or any of the other predefined events, the car will make a call automatically. So that's another great feature that this panel has. You have this really huge sun blind which really covers the window very well, and you have this illuminated vanity mirror on both the sides. You also get a toll ticket holder here, which is useful, and interestingly enough, the driver's side also gets a grab handle, so I can grab onto my handle while I'm driving. I don't know why it's supposed to be here, but it's here anyway, and it's there on the rest of the 3 passengers' sides as well. I have this very nice armrest. The steering wheel is electrically adjustable for reach and rake, which is fantastic. You obviously have a push start and stop for the engine, and you also have this glove box, which is a 2-compartment unit, so you don't have much of space here, but you definitely have a 12 volt power socket here. And seems like Jaguar Land Rover have gone obsessed with the power outlets on this car. There are a crazy number of power outlets, and this is just one of them. This is a DVD slot, and you have some space there which is also lit by a small light. The lower compartment though is bigger, and what we have here are these beautiful Range Rover branded headphones, and they are meant for the rear passengers, and we are going to get in the back seat very quickly and let you know that just in a bit. Seats by themselves are supremely comfortable. You have electrically adjustable headrests, you have lumbar support, you have fore and aft adjustment, you have recline adjustment, you have everything that you could wish for, and the safety here is also pretty solid. This is one of the best SUVs that you can sit in. The visibility is fantastic all around, the sound quality is fantastic, the insulation is amazing, and except for a few small things, these plastic buttons which probably could have felt richer, and B, a lack of massage functions, because for a car which retails for such a high price, I think the massage function could probably have been included. Apart from these two things, I don't really think we have much to complain about, which makes us ready to go at the back seat and explore the wonders back there, because this is essentially an LWB variant, a long wheelbase variant, which essentially is a limousine, and it's essentially meant primarily for people who want to be driven rather than driving themselves. So let's get to the back seat and discover its luxuries. Now, entry, as I mentioned before, for such a high car can be a bit of an issue for someone who's not very tall, but once you get inside, There is acres of legroom here. This is as good as it gets, and legroom doesn't really get any better than this. So as you can see, I've stretched my legs and I have controls to recline the seat back, and this really is one of the nicest places to be for the back seats of any car. Apart from that, as I mentioned before, you get these headphones which you can use if you don't want to disturb the co-passenger. There's a pair, so both the passengers can use these headphones, wear them, and you have this remote control to control a lot of things. You can control both the screens actually using this one remote. So I've just turned this screen on using this remote, and I can turn it off, and I can turn this screen on or off as well. And this button here is for the media library because this has got onboard memory. Using this you can control the climate. This is for the home. There are a lot of buttons, and you can essentially increase or decrease volume and choose tracks. So you can control a lot of stuff using this remote here, and you can heat or ventilate these seats. You just have to take this cursor on the lower or the upper arrows, and then you can press the OK button to either cool it or to heat it. So that's again a great feature and makes it a proper limousine with all the luxuries that set it apart from its lesser rivals. This armrest by itself is pretty massive, and you can also get access to the boot directly by bringing this central piece down, and you can push it all the way back to bring down the armrest again. So it's again very luxurious, as you can see, and one of the nicest back benches that you'd ever come across. You can also control a lot of stuff using these climate controls here. So you have a 4-zone climate control. You can control your temperature using these rotary dials here, and this is very easy to use. You have these 2 vents, and you have this deep crevice here, which is so deep that it can easily swallow 2 1-liter water bottles, as you can see. And just in case you thought there were not enough number of power sockets, you have one more of them right here. And wait, there are more. There are 2 more USB sockets here, and in case you wanted more power, you have a 2-pin power socket here. But that's not it. You have 1 more power socket here, and 1 more power socket here, and 2 more HDMI sockets here. So if you want to be running a hardware shop for all the power sockets in the world, you know which car to steal all the sockets from. I'm just kidding, but this feels very spacious and very nice. This is one of the nicest places to be. The AC vents, apart from the central AC vents, you have a pair of AC vents here as well, and you also have this touch sensitive sensor here, which is supposed to be controlling this light here. This light here isn't working very well with the touch of my thumb, although the one here is working just fine. So sometimes it does happen that the sensor doesn't work very well, and we have seen this happening quite a few times. So I think this probably can be made to function a little better. There is space for a 3rd passenger, but these cars are not meant to seat 5 passengers. They're meant for only 2 passengers in the back. But if you so wish for short journeys, there is some space, and it can accommodate a 3rd passenger for short journey. You also have this pocket at the back of the front seat, although I don't see much use for it unless you have a plastic bottle or a magazine that you want it to hold. Another interesting feature here is that for the rear passenger, both the windows can be controlled from either side, and as you can see right now, this lit arrow is pointing to the left, which means that if I press this button, the window and the blinds to the left are going to go down. So I can control that from the right side. Similarly, I can press it once and now it's pointing to the right, which means that I can now control the window to my right, or if I press it once more, both the windows will be controlled simultaneously. So that's a cool feature. You don't have to ask anyone to take the windows up or the blinds up or down, and you can control everything all by yourself. You also have a few other controls, including this button for the sunroof blinds. In case the sensor isn't working, you don't have to worry because you have a separate button for these reading lights. You can press them multiple times to increase the intensity, then decrease it, and then finally shut it off. And they're illuminated in two different ways. One is while you're watching something on the screen, and the other one is essentially for reading, so the intensity on the two differs. So quite a ton of features. You can also use this button here to mute everything, and if you get a phone call or something, you can just press this button and everything will be muted. So all these are very intuitive features which you will not get on a lot of other cars. Very rare cars have such exclusive controls for the rear passengers, and Range Rover long wheelbase is one of those rare cars. One of the most comfortable seats, one of the quietest cabins, one of the most amount of leg space. However, I still wish that I had massagers here, because that's what you get on some other cars. Here I don't have it, and that's probably my only grouse about this set of seats out here.